Hello, hatchlings, and I am doing another update. I'm doing my 6 months on testosterone video. I'm doing it on my computer. This is honestly really exciting. I wasn't expecting like it to get here so quickly. I remember just waiting and waiting some more to get hormones, and the fact that I am now halfway through a year of transitioning is just incredible. And obviously, I know it takes longer than a year for like all of the changes and everything to happen and to go through the surgeries and everything like that. But the amount of changes that has happened in these 6 months has honestly been incredible. And as well, for the fact that I am using the little roll-on kind of testosterone that soaks into your body. The reason I say it's amazing is because when it comes to androgel, when it comes to alcohol-based testosterones or testosterone that you apply to your body as a new kind of nasal spray, um, there is potential for your body to not soak up that testosterone. Um, the reason being is not everyone's body will absorb the same amount of the alcohol solution as another person. But in my case and my instance, I've been incredibly blessed with the fact that my body has been taking the testosterone, it's been soaking it up. All of my levels have been correct on just the one squirt. Normally, people would need about 2 to get their levels of testosterone to the amount that the doctors see fit. So the fact that I only need 1 and that my body is soaking all of that up and that I can actually see the changes from it and hear the changes from it, it's mind-blowing. I remember before starting and before going through all of this, how incredibly sad and depressed I was. And there's kind of a point, and I feel like a lot of other trans people, no matter like where you're transitioning, whether you're non-binary or anything like that, there's a point before transitioning for me where I was just in this hole and it was getting worse, and I was just digging further and further down that hole because I wasn't essentially doing what was good for me. I wasn't helping myself, and the first step out of that hole was making that phone call to the doctor's clinic, Northside Clinic, in Melbourne. So if you're here in Australia, in Victoria, Northside Clinic, I really highly recommend for anyone who is in the LGBT community. You are allowed to go there if you are part of the LGBT community, if you're lesbian, gay, bi, trans, doesn't matter, non-binary, it doesn't matter. They honestly are there to help you, whether it be for transitioning, whether it be to get health care in like care related stuff for your health, and they do it very cheaply. They have the whole Medicare card system, they have the healthcare card system, so even if you're not earning that much and you are on like the healthcare system, they make it very, very easy for you to access health and to access sexual health and constantly be checked, because that's something that is incredibly important and that gets overlooked in LGBT community a lot, because nobody really educates people on health wise to do with those sorts of things, and it can lead to problems. Anyone who doesn't check up on anything, it can lead to problems. So I highly recommend, if you're in the LGBT community, you're in Australia, you're in Victoria, Melbourne, go there, because they will help you, they won't judge, and they will treat you like an actual person. They won't look at you weirdly. Like, the doctor's office where I live has looked at me a bit weirdly ever since I changed my name and prefix from Miss to Mr. I don't know why they changed it back to Miss, but they were looking at the thing and then looking at me and then changed it back, and I was like, why did you do that? So, not really particularly keen on going there. I'm happy to travel all the way over into the city. That hour-and-a-half trip I will make, because honestly, it's worth it to get proper care and be seen with a person, you know. So go there. But I think the first step was calling them, and then the next step out of that hole was going and getting evaluated by a gender psychologist who kind of specializes in that, and she was really good about everything. Basically, all you have to do is talk about your past and how you were as a kid. I explained I've always been very tomboyish, liked like boys, stereotypically boys' toys and video games and skateboarding and hanging out with like a lot of the boys and going bike riding, or like going on scooters or whatever, doing stereotypical like boy things that a kid would do, getting out, playing in the bloody mud, climbing trees. Did that. It's fun, I tell you, it's fun. Just go out there and do what you want to do, honestly. So I explained that I wasn't really a stereotypical feminine person. I was more quite masculine, and though I have like very feminine qualities, I was kind of always quite a boy. And just explained, I hated going shopping, hated makeup, hated dresses, just because it made me feel quite uncomfortable, and looking at myself wearing that stuff and seeing myself as quite feminine and like as a female was quite uncomfortable. And so I explained all of that stuff, and you don't necessarily have to go through all of that and be a trans person. You can be non-binary and go and see them and talk about all of that. You don't have to go through all the stereotypical, like, well, I was into the other gender stuff, because it doesn't matter. You are who you are. You know who you are. And if you don't know, that's fine. They're there to help you figure that out. And usually they're pretty good with it now, finding out who is and who isn't. So they told me. Everyone's experiences are a lot different. But for me, our sessions finished on third session, and I got my note saying that I've been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. She said it was a very easy and simple, because I displayed all the very prominent stereotypical trans-related stuff. It was, yes, I am this gender and I wish to transition to this gender, and I have never really felt the gender that I was given And once I understood that, it just clicked and made things a lot easier. And sometimes they'll try and, you know, I guess, give you a question to kind of make you think about it. But I think the fact that I was so sure and so certain because I'd already gone through the process of all of that beforehand, going, well, am I trans? Am I really trans? If I am, oh my god, what do I do? Blah, blah, blah. I went through all of that before I started doing this. So I didn't question anything anymore because I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And I knew who I was, and I knew that I had to do this in order to better myself. So when given that question, to kind of make you think about it, because I still answered that yes, this is what I want to do, it just kind of makes things very, very, very set and very certain when you yourself are set and certain and you know. So I went through that. Then the next step became seeing the endocrinologist to just check all my levels and get my prescription, because I need the doctor's name on the prescription to get my hormones. And there is a long process of waiting and going through all of that. But I feel like because these were more slower steps to get out of the hole. Like, it sucks waiting for so long, but I think for me, taking the time to slowly do things, especially because of how I am when it comes to anxiety and just being pushed into the deep end, can be quite scary. Taking the time and slowly going through the process, and I was very curious. I would talk to the doctors about how everything works and kind of talk about all of the stuff scientifically related so that I could get some more information that may not have necessarily been online. So that for me was more just an interest thing. And when I was there, I was asked if I wanted to join a study. And now the study was to basically check and see what the hormones that I'm taking for HRT do to my body, and then kind of compare it to a cis male, and kind of look at the results after 2 years of being on hormones and 2 years of transitioning, what the hormones have essentially done to my body on the outside, so what you can see, as well as on the inside that you can't really see. And so I go through like these x-rays and look at my bone density, my fat density. They go through my height, weight, which interestingly enough, and I have explained before, I got 2 centimeters taller. I gained a lot more weight, but not unhealthily so. The weight that I gained was muscle weight because my shoulders got a lot bigger and broader. My neck here got much thicker. And the sides here, oh wait, sit up. The sides here are like filling out. So right now, my sides here are starting to become more straight. So the next step is the part in the middle, because basically everything's starting to square off now. The only thing that still kind of resembles a very feminine quality about my body is my hips, and I don't particularly like them. So that's why I'm exercising. I'm exercising to get rid of my chest because I don't want my chest. And I've also set myself a goal for this year, is to essentially turn these into pecs and completely burn off the fat from my chest area. Because I'm taking testosterone, I shouldn't be getting fat going to my chest anymore. which means that I will hopefully be able to burn it off. And the reason I want to burn off my chest, because I'm not a huge cup size. I'm an A cup, which is quite small, but it is not small enough to get keyhole surgery. You practically have to have a man chest in order to get keyhole surgery. So it's not an impossible goal, for me at least. It's going to take some time to burn off the fat in that area, but I'm doing that because I want my surgery to be less invasive and I want as minimal scarring as possible. I'm doing that for myself because that's what I personally want. I want it to look as cis male as possible, and the results that I want for myself aren't necessarily the results that somebody else might want, but that's the results that I want for myself. So that's my goal for this year in terms of exercising. I've still kept up with my exercise routine, so now I'm going to start amplifying it. So putting in another day of exercise, so that I can work on my chest, because to work on your chest, you kind of have to do it twice a week and just continually keep working on that and doing that. So that's my goal. Oh boy. This is just, it's mind-blowing. So then the next step for me getting out of that hole was getting prescribed my testosterone, being prescribed that testosterone so that I could take it. I chose the roll-on testosterone because I wanted something that I could apply every day. And the reason I did that is because I watched so many videos of trans men talking about the effects of being injected testosterone. They had more acne on their face, a lot more mood swings, and a lot of them, the conclusion they came to was because you get injected with such a high dose of testosterone, it peaks, and then it slowly starts to come down, and then you get injected and it peaks again, and then it comes down, and it peaks, and it comes down. To me, that's not healthy, because looking at effects of peaking levels of hormones, and then it going down and peaking, and going down and peaking, that's not healthy. That's not really healthy for you. And that's just from my experience looking at what the doctors have said about my mother in terms of like peaking hormones and coming down, peaking, coming down. That's not healthy for a body. And so I decided to do one that I could apply every day to avoid acne, because I suffered acne absolutely horribly when I was going through my first puberty. It was awful. I hated it. I had those big giant pustules on my face, and I had to basically go through the chemical treatment to stop my face from being like that, and it was absolutely horrible. The chemicals made my face incredibly red. It left quite a lot of scarring, and it took a very long time for my skin to heal from that, but you know what? It got rid of the acne amazingly. And it's not like I went through and didn't do like all the other stuff before. That was my last result. I'd gone through everything that I could possibly go to. I went to all these different doctors, and that was the last resort to getting rid of my acne. And it's not healthy putting those chemicals on your face. It's really not good for you, and it is a high level of acid essentially that you're putting on your face, so you're pretty much burning your pimples off. But I remember going through all of that just to get rid of my pimples. So I definitely didn't want pimples, so applying it every day, I noticed that I have very minimal pimples. I'll get a pimple maybe, say, like where I'm growing my mustache. I'll get maybe a pimple more so on like the bottom of my chin, where I'm growing a lot more hair on my chin. I'll maybe get them in my eyebrows or on like my forehead, where my hair's kind of thin, so I'm guessing like the oils just kind of come down. Sometimes on my nose, but very rarely. Around this area, like my cheeks and stuff, is pretty clean. It's more where I've been growing hair and where it's been thickening. So my eyebrows, my mustache, and my little chin. Some I've been getting on my neck, which is weird because I never really got pimples on my neck. And only conclusion I can put to that is because there's a lot more fat that's been redistributed to my neck, and especially here, to protect my Adam's apple, which will hopefully come through. I can only assume because everything's kind of been shifting, my body was like, oh my god, I'm just going to throw a pimple here because this is stressful. Because so you can get pimples from stress. So that I can understand. I've had pimples on like my shoulders and my arm area, but that's quite normal. I've kind of always continually had that on my shoulders and arm. It's not really a problem that I need to go and do that treatment for my arms because it's like 1 or 2 here and there and it's fine. I do get them on my back, but I just get a scrubber and soap, and that helps honestly remove them. It's more so on my back, which is kind of gross, but you know what, I can remove them with the soap and the scrubby brush and use. Yeah. So in terms of pimples, that was amazing. In terms of emotional shifting, and for like the stereotype is that you're quick to anger, you get like angry really quickly, blah blah blah. But I took hormones every day to stop the emotional up and down, up and down, up and down with the peaking and lowering of hormones. And you know what? I haven't really had any emotional outbursts in terms of being angry. I haven't gone and done anything like crazy or anything like that where they're just like, oh, you'll be a 12-year-old boy jumping off of rocks into the water and, you know, doing crazy stunts. No. The craziest stunt that I did was when I went to New South Wales and I jumped from a pier that was probably like 6-7 meters into the ocean, and I was still terrified. I had a lot of fear that I was going to hit the bottom, I was going to end up getting stabbed by a sea urchin, and that was not going to be a fun time for me. I did eventually jump, but it took a long time and it took a lot for me to prep myself to do it. I didn't just go, oh, woo, we're gonna do it, I'm doing it. It was very scary for me. Not something that I would do all the time. I don't think that's really in my nature. I'm happy to jump off that pier again because it is safe and it's just a deep pit of water underneath you. So it is a safe area, everyone jumps from there all the time, but at the same time, there is a reason that we have those kind of stops and our brain telling us to be cautious, because you can hurt yourself. You really can hurt yourself, and even hitting water underneath, you have to take the measures in order to do that safely. So, but at least I can say I did something and pushed through my fear, and that is something that I can be very proud for myself, because that is something I wanted to do for this year, was to essentially push out of my comfort zone and essentially push myself and like better myself and not be so afraid of things anymore, and to like work on my confidence and stuff. So that that in a weird way helped, in the weirdest way possible. But yes, so I haven't really had any angry outbursts or any kind of emotional fluctuating. I haven't had any really hot or cold sweats. I had hot flushes when I very, very first started, and I think that's because my body was like, oh my god, what the hell is happening? What is this new hormone? And I got like extremely hot and cold flushes, and I was like, whoa, I don't like this. But it stopped after that. It's not really been that bad. My body temperature has increased though. I can handle the cold weather a lot more now. At the same time, I have my father's Scottish genes, and he wears shorts and a t-shirt in winter. So for me to have a peaking like body temperature that's normal for me. I had a very, very warm body temperature beforehand anyway, and the fact that it has gotten warmer is just, I'm a walking heater at this point. Yay, Scottish Jews! Woo! I'm literally a walking heater. It's crazy, but you know what? I can keep someone warm in winter, and that's fine. Give someone my jumper, and I'll be good to go. I'll be fine. I won't die. So I definitely have had an increase in temperature. Another thing, some people, they say they get less like emotional in the sense that they can't cry anymore. Or for some people they cry a lot less. And so I'm going to talk about that. For me, that is not the case. I can still cry about things. If I see animal videos and I see a dog that's seeing its human come back from a long trip or the war and they're so excited and everything, that makes me cry. Seeing people getting gifted animals, that makes me cry. I'm gonna cry because animals, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. You can't not cry at the doggos. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. They're so, like, they make me cry, but in like a, oh my god, I'm so happy for you way. So I can still cry, but what I will say is that I do not cry or get emotional over nothing anymore. Which has been interesting, and it has been a lot better for me and for everyone around me experiencing that, because beforehand I could get quite upset very easily over nothing, and I would end up crying over nothing. And in my mind it wasn't nothing or anything, but I would get kind of very exaggeratively upset, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But I think because I was going through a lot of dysphoria, because I was going through a lot of depression and anxiety because of it, just hating my body and myself, that can make a person very emotionally unstable. And I think now, because I'm going through all these changes and everything, it's made me view myself a lot better. I'm definitely out of that depressive hole, and while I will get like anxiety and depression every now and then, and dysphoria will kind of rear its ugly head every now and then, it's not as bad. It's really not as bad, and it's quite manageable, and I can deal with that. And now when those situations come up where something might happen, instead of me getting quite emotionally charged and crying and getting upset, I tend more to think about, okay, well, this happened and it sucked, but I really can't do anything about it. But what can I do to fix it or at least improve the situation. So more so I think I'm more analyzing the situation than I am getting upset. In certain rare circumstances, um, depending on the situation, I can get quite upset and like emotional still, but that depends, like I said, on the situation. And when I am crying, it's more to help. It's my body's way of letting everything out, and it's a lot better and a lot healthier. So I kind of let it just cry and let it go out of there, and I try not to um, like act, like react upon those emotions. It's more to let my body flush everything out of my system. But I would say I definitely handle the smaller situations a lot better and a lot more calmer, and it's been a lot nicer for me. I've been a lot more confident, and while my confidence isn't 100%, it isn't all the way there, and I still have to work on a few things. I am able to stand up for myself a lot more, which is something that I was never really able to do. That is something that has been incredibly difficult for me to stand up for myself. I've had very low confidence with myself and just very low confidence in general. And transitioning has absolutely transformed that in the most positive way. All of the changes mentally have been absolutely incredibly positive, and because they've been so positive, when I look back at everything beforehand, I realize now how awfully bad it was. And sometimes you don't realize being in that situation because it's something that is normal to you. But looking back on it and just seeing that from the perspective now is incredible how much testosterone has changed my mental state and how I view myself and my confidence, and just everything has been changed to the most positive thing ever. And that is just incredible for me. I think more than anything, even though testosterone does change you physically, the mental changes that the hormone does for you when you're going through hormone replacement therapy is amazing. Like, it's honestly amazing. You feel so much better about yourself, and it just changes everything a lot more positively and like for the good. And I was watching a video, and that's because your hormone is also like reacting with your brain and your body. Like, your hormone is reacting throughout your whole entire system, and because it is reacting with your brain, and your brain, because it's taking that in, can now view you, you can now kind of view yourself as the person that you see become a lot more better and a lot more healthier. And it is amazing just what one hormone can do to your whole entire body, not just physically but mentally. And that's just crazy to me, honestly. That's been absolutely crazy, just seeing that and seeing the changes more and more. The more I tend to view myself a lot better. And while I'm not 100% finished transitioning where I've come from beforehand, that is just that's amazing. That is just crazy to me. Any other changes? Definitely, like, my arm, shoulder, my neck. A lot more hair. Now, I always had hair on my legs, as you can see, but I never had hair up on my legs here. You may not be able to see, yeah, it just looks like white skin. I'm getting a lot more hair on the top of my legs there. I always had a snail trail, but it's a lot more prominent. You can see it now. I'm getting hair up here, hair along here. You can't see it because it's not as dark. Okay, my sides, as you can see here, are squaring off a lot more. I still have this curve that goes out into my hips, but if I push it up, all of a sudden, like I push my hips in, like the fat from my hips in, and that's square. Like if you look at that compared to the other side now, that's a lot more square. All I have to do is get my fat from my hips to move into that part, which I'm hoping will happen. Another thing that's happened is my face. My face has changed a lot. It used to be a lot more round. My chin is like a lot more masculine. It kind of sticks out a bit more. It kind of goes in, and like the fat's gone from around here to make it like rounder, and it's kind of gone in more. And so it's pronouncing my chin a lot more. My jawline is a lot more prominent now. Like it's a lot more prominent. There's obviously still some roundness to it, but it is definitely a lot more prominent. My cheeks here have gone in. They're not as round anymore. My eyebrows have thickened up a little bit, and I can see where they're starting to like thicken up a bit more. I'm getting extra hair along the ends here. I'm getting like extra strands of hair at the top and extra strands of hair coming through at the bottom. So they'll thicken up, not hugely, but they'll be a lot more thicker and a lot more masculine. I haven't seen any changes around my nose. For some people, their nose gets a lot bigger, but I haven't really seen that yet. That might happen in the future. Now, the next thing, and I'm going to have to pull up a video to show you, and I'm going to have to pull up something from way before I started hormones, before any of this, and compare my voice, and while my voice is still going through changes and still has to get a lot more deep, the fact that it is so deep now and you can hear the changes, that is crazy to me. Now, I need to find a video so that I can play you and just show you the difference in my voice, because it is crazy. It is absolutely crazy to me. Here we go. Here's one before taking any hormones whatsoever, and this just blows my mind. Alright, now I want you to, you've already seen this video possibly, but just listen.
So this is my hair now. As you can see, it's very short and shaved, and I only have the bit on the top of my head, which is how I wanted my hair. That's exactly how I wanted it, and I'm really happy with it. And honestly, it's not done up or anything like that. It's such a crazy mess. It's a crazy mess, but it is my hair and I'm happy with it.
I sound so different. So different. Like, that is crazy. That is crazy. I sound very different now. And like I said, my voice has still a ways to go because my Adam's apple hasn't come through yet. And it gets deeper when it when it comes through. And it will keep getting deeper till I would say like 10, 11, 12 like months is probably when it gets quite deep. But you know what? Your voice can still like start to settle and everything and become its deepest in like 4 years' time. So I have a long ways to go and it will still get a lot deeper. But the fact that it is so deep now is incredible. And while I do get voice breaks and they're annoying and I can't really control them too much now, beforehand I could kind of control them. Now it gets a bit more difficult. I have to kind of talk a bit more calmer and not get too excited, because when I get excited or flustered, that's when the voice cracks come, because my voice starts to go higher and it's like, nope, you can't go in that higher range. How dare you try and talk in a higher pitched voice. But can we just listen to my voice again? Because what? Like, no, play it. Come on. There we go.
Hopefully, the appointment goes good and I can, I guess, do what I need to kind of get where I want to be. So that's pretty awesome. Well, at least you know what my hair is like. Awesome. Alright, well, thank you.
That is so different. Like, I'm looking, like, I can hear that video, and my voice is a lot higher. I definitely have that very feminine quality in my voice, and I think even still, I have that feminine quality in my voice. But that is just crazy. That is crazy. The difference, the absolute difference in my voice. That is amazing to me. And now it's been 6 months now on HRT. For me, it's testosterone. I honestly, I pass as male. I would say probably like 95, 97% of the time in public. If they don't know me, I pass as male. I usually pass as a very young male, but they'll use more male-oriented prefixes. I noticed men will start to call other guys, like other men in Australia, mate. And they'll do it a bit more casual. They'll kind of speak to you a bit more casual. They'll be like, oh, hey, mate. I'll get young lad, young boy, young guy. Usually young in front of it, or just like, that lad over there, you know, blah, blah, blah. Which is interesting. I think that's because I look like a 16-year-old boy that is going through puberty. And honestly, that is correct. I am going through puberty again. I may not be a 16-year-old boy, but I look like a 16-year-old. I sound like a 16-year-old going through puberty. I'm getting very, like, peach fuzzy hair like a 16-year-old boy. So it only makes sense that they view me as a 16-year-old boy, and you know what, I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that, because you know what? I am seen and I am read as male, and that's what I wanted. There are a few people here and there that are like, young lady, blah, 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 blah. But it's not as often. It used to be quite frequently that I would be referred to as female terms, especially on like 4 months of HRT, I would still be referred to as female terms quite often. When I hit the 5 month, very, very slowly, I would get people here and there who would refer to me as a young boy, or like male orientated, like pronouns and all of that. But it was kind of people here and there every so often. But now it is very much a majority of the time now. And that is crazy to me. That is absolutely crazy to me. That people see me as male now. The only people who kind of get a bit more confused are those who knew me while I was transitioning or before I was transitioning, who are regular customers and whatnot. And they'll be like, oh, do you have like a cold or something? And I'll be like, well, the thing is, I'm transitioning and I'm going through hormones, and that's why my voice sounds a lot deeper. And they are quite understanding about it, and I don't expect customers, I would hope customers don't get upset about it if I answer very calmly and just answer their questions. You can't really go wrong. I mean, you're being calm, you're not subjecting them to anything, you're just answering what they're curious about, because some people don't really understand it. It's not the most common thing to have, and while it's a bit more known online and through the internet, and it's getting a lot more talked about, and it's getting a lot more media coverage about it, it still doesn't happen very often. You're not going to find a trans person everywhere. It doesn't happen. You'll find them here and there every so often. And that is just because not many people not many people don't view. How do I explain? There are not many people who are transgender. There's a reason that the system uses the system that it does, because they've done it for so long, and it's for the majority of people. Transgender people are the minority of people, and just because we don't view ourselves as the gender that we were assigned at birth, or we don't necessarily view ourselves as any gender because of societal gender stereotypes. I'm hoping that because of like all the media coverage, and because of people explaining and being a bit more calmer and talking about their personal stories, it can break down that social stereotype, and so that way even cisgender people can dress the way that they feel most comfortable to themselves. Because I have a friend, and he absolutely adored wearing women's clothing, he adored very feminine things, he absolutely adored that. But because of the way society views men who wear dresses and makeup and very feminine clothing, he would get very, very hurtfully picked on and abused in public and stuff. And it's taken him a long time to accept himself and be able to be comfortable in what he wears, and find friends and people who aren't going to tell him that he's a freak because he likes feminine things. I think I was one of the very first people that he came to, and I never said anything bad about his clothing choice. I said, you know what, it's what makes you comfortable. Who gives a F what everyone else thinks about you? You do what's comfortable. And honestly, I should have practiced what I preached then, because I would have done this a lot sooner. I didn't know what transgender was at the time, mind you, but I should have done the same thing. And while I dressed quite masculine and everything to make myself more comfortable, the fact that I was not physically masculine was still dysphoria inducing. Yay, dysphoria. But just seeing his face and how happy he is wearing that, is amazing. And I think breaking down that wall will make so many people happy, will make so many people be comfortable in themselves, be more confident in themselves, just be themselves without having people abuse and harass them for being themselves. They're not hurting anyone, they're not hurting you. So why are you hurting them? Why are you hurting what makes them happy? Why are you hurting what they want to do? It's not hurting anyone. They're not going off and attacking anyone, but yet you're attacking them. I don't get that. I am hoping that it breaks down the wall, and I hope by being quite open about being transgender and talking about anything, like any topic that is brought to my attention, any question that's brought to my attention, and educating on why certain questions are probably not okay to ask other people, even though I'm like answering it, just explaining why it's not the best thing to ask certain questions, and just educating people will give a lot more of a positive experience if you're answering quite calmly and positively than if you're like being quite closed off and reserved and acting quite negatively. It leaves a very negative impression, and while you may not mean to, and while you definitely do not have to explain your whole entire life story to a stranger, for me personally, I feel like people are more likely to see something in a positive manner and are more likely to react positively if you react positively and you give people information. When a person lashes out and when a person is angry at someone, it's because often they don't understand and they're not informed, and they can often be lashing out at someone of something that they are quite insecure about themselves. So I think giving people that information, giving them tools, can not only give them the information that they need to not be so angry and lash out at the unknown, it also helps them realize something about themselves as well. Because if you find like bullies or anything online, often or not, they're lashing out at something that they are quite insecure about in themselves. And often or not, they're lashing out at other people what people have lashed out at them for. And that is their way of essentially coping. It's not positive, it's quite a negative way of doing things, but I feel reacting positively and just informing people, I'm hoping that it will change things for the good. And not everyone is going to react positively when I react positively. No one is perfect and nobody is going to listen to everything that they say. There are going to be those people who ignore everything that you say and just don't really care about what you're saying and don't want to listen and don't want to learn. But you know what, with those people, you tried, and I tried to educate them and they didn't want to listen. That then falls on them. That then just falls on themselves because they just can't accept what is in front of them and giving that information. And if they're not willing to learn, if they're not willing to listen, then they're not worth it. And it's not worth getting upset over them. Honestly, I've tried educating. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But for the majority of the time, I would say it works, and the people are left thinking about things. It gets them to really think, and it gets them to really think about the society that they live in. And often they kind of come back and they're just kind of like, I really understand what you said. Sometimes it takes time for people to process, and that's fine. But they come back and they're like, I really understand where you're coming from or what you mean. I think taking that time for letting some people reflect on that is really helpful. Letting a person have a positive experience. They come back to you and they have a conversation with you, they want to learn more, they want to ask more questions because they're like, there's so much I can learn, and I didn't realize I could learn so much from just this one topic, from this one person. I can learn all these things, and because I'm willing to answer, because I'm willing to educate and teach. That's important. That's honestly really important. And honestly, I'm very, very happy to become like a teacher or talk about these things and educate people. And while I may not be 100% correct and I may have flaws, and you're welcome to come at me and educate me and say, well, you said this thing, but it was kind of wrong. And then I'll be like, okay, that's my mistake. We're allowed to make mistakes. We're only human. It's what we do. We make mistakes. But the best thing that you can do when you make a mistake is accept it. Say, you know what, I made a mistake. That was my bad. And then you learn from it. And that's all you do. You learn from it. And that's perfectly fine. It's not scary, I promise you. It may seem scary, but you go, I made a mistake, it's my bad, and you learn from it. And you accept that mistake. And that's a very hard thing to do, and it's very daunting because of how people brought you up in like society, especially in like the school systems. If you make a mistake, you're severely punished. So I think the thinking in, if I admit to my mistake, I'm going to be severely punished, is because of what the school system does to very young kids. They make a mistake, they're punished, they're wrong, blah, blah, blah. So you grow up with this mentality of, I can't make a mistake because if I mess up, negative, negative, negative. But it's not like that, and it's a lot healthier to accept a mistake, learn from it, and move on. And I think that's something that the school system really needs to change, to just be like, yes, you made a mistake, but here is the correct answer. And then they're learning from that experience, or giving a positive experience, going, yes, thank you for giving that, but that's not necessarily correct, but here is the correct answer. And then you're teaching them, you know. You're not saying, no, you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. Just go, well, yes, but this is the correct answer, and here is why. Doesn't seem so hard. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nitpicking and looking at things too much, but that's how I handle my situation. And for me, I want to be like very open about everything, and I want to educate people. I want to help people in similar situations, and hopefully by explaining my own experiences, help other people in very similar situations. And it's just been crazy, and I think just watching me go through all of this hopefully helps you see that, you know, there is something at the end of the tunnel. There is something that you can do about it. You can help yourself, and even if people tell you no, you do things for yourself. You do it for yourself, to make yourself happy. You don't listen to the people who tell you no, because when people start to see how happy you are, they realize how much better it is for you to be doing that. So I think I've rambled on long enough about my 6-month update, but this is just an overview of everything that's been going on. I wanted to make this video quite long because it's a milestone. It's halfway to a year, and that is just exciting and amazing to me, honestly. And I'm excited to see what the next 6 months hold for me, and all the changes that happen with that. I want to thank you all for watching this incredibly long video, and hopefully I will see you for more updates, more videos. Yeah, so if you liked it, waddle over to the like button, slap the subscribe to become a hatchling, and I will see you in a wingspan. Bye-bye. Wink.